Welcome to this DDI CADcast What's New series. Today we're covering what's new in SOLIDWORKS Composer 2015. Let's go and take a look. Alright, so here's the quick rundown of the new items for 2015 Composer. It's a pretty short list, but there's some good stuff in here. I also wanted to bring up the changes as far as the system requirements. You'll be able to open 2014 SOLIDWORKS files still, along with Creo and ASYS. There is only a 64-bit of the SOLIDWORKS Composer and the SOLIDWORKS Composer Player for this release. So this is falling in line with the rest of SOLIDWORKS. They're actually obsoleting the 32-bit version for the 2015 release. Alright, so let's go and get something open here. Interface-wise, you'll see it's pretty straightforward. It's the same standard interface. File menus, nothing really changed there. The ribbon tabs, still the same. Let's go and look at the help and about. If you're used to 3D via Composer, this has changed a little bit. You've got the version number and your service pack along with your SOLIDWORKS serial number in that window. Alright, so let's go and take a look at the first item. It's the Composer browser-based user assistance portal. And what it really comes down to is that they've actually moved the help menu over to your web browser. There is an issue right now at the time of this release that it doesn't work in Chrome. So if that's your default HTML viewer, then it may give you problems. Internet Explorer, as long as you allow block content, it'll work there. I've also tested it in Firefox as well. So you might need to change what your default HTML is. And as far as what it is, it's basically just a new look to the help menu. I think it's a little bit easier to navigate. You've got the contents on the left there. All the other stuff is actually still there. So for example, if you're going through the working with a ribbon, it still breaks it down individually by each tab there. So just a new look, new interface, something different. And I think they'll probably down the road be able to push updates and stuff through that same interface as well, similar to what SOLIDWORKS does. Alright, so the next item is the Viewport zoom factor property. And what this is if I select on just the background, so nothing's previewed, over here on the right I have the camera height, and I can actually set that at a specific distance so that it basically would allow me to get every view set specifically at the same view setting. I did notice one other thing with it though, is if you jump into your styles workshop and default style, you can actually turn that setting on. Go and type in a value, so maybe like 350 here for mine. Hit enter and it stores that with that default style. I'll close that out, and now if I go to a different view, and I won't save that one, so this different view is at 340.524 there, but now if I go styles, single click on my default style, you'll see that now that view is at that particular view setting. So it's kind of a great way to get all your views at the same depth there. So I might jump over to another one here, do a single click on my style. Once again, I've got it at the same depth. So kind of a great item. If you switch on the perspective mode, it actually changes to a camera FOV. And I had to look up FOV because I forgot, but it's a field of view. So it's basically because we're at on a perspective view, we're seeing that, and specifies the angular extension of the view. You'll see that in the help menu, but same basic idea, that I can actually change where I'm looking at. And let's check that one real quick. So styles, looks like I can store that as well as a default setting too. Again, with perspective turned on, with perspective turned off, lower right hand corner there. So camera height versus FOV. Alright, so this next one is specifically for polylines. It's called black or back border property for polylines. And so this only applies to the regular polylines, author tab polylines, not the associative path from neutral, so just polylines. So with the polyline selected, Over here in the properties I have border. I'm going to go and say show. And this allows me actually to pick out a color. So I'll go with maybe a black or something to start with. Might change it to maybe a green or something. And this is independent of the color, so I can actually make the line a little bit thicker, and I can make the width of this backer here a little bit bigger. And I guess the idea would be just to kind of create or bring the emphasis to the particular line. So when I go and click off of them, it does still respect the fact that it does go behind the object as well. So just a new item for the polylines there. Alright, so this next one I do want to kind of start out by showing you where I'm getting all the what's new. Actually, if you go up to the help menu and come down to release notes, that'll actually open up the PDF of the what's new there. So we're on to item number 4 here. So this is a change in behavior for some of the properties. Multiple selection of actors. It's one of those things that I probably didn't realize that you couldn't do, but might be a big help. One example that I've set up here is like the ability of changing color with multiple assemblies selected. The other ones I'm not going to take the time to show, but it is just a quick idea of some of the items that they've changed to allow multiple selections. So I'm over on the assembly tab, select both of my 2 sub-assemblies I just created in the composer file here, and just the ability of changing both of those sub-assemblies to one single color there. So it's kind of nice, great way to change those maybe for emphasis or something to that effect. Whereas before I think we had to go one by one there to get those selected. Alright, so this next one is the render mode as a default document properties. Again, remember SOLIDWORKS Composer doesn't have templates per se. They only have the default document properties. And what it is if we go File, Preferences, go down to Viewport, there's this option for render mode. And what it is if I created a new Composer document, whether it be in Composer or in SOLIDWORKS doing the file save as, I could have it always default to like Silhouette or one of these other render style modes. I do want to point out that it's not on by default. We do need to create an environment variable, and then I'm going to go and copy this just so we can create that. So create a environment render variable, name that, and set its value to 1. And we'll go and go through that procedure just so you can see it here. Alright, so I'm going to switch back to SOLIDWORKS Composer and just kind of show that it's not there. So properties, default document properties, down to viewport, and it should be just below this ghost opacity, so it's not there by default. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close out of Composer, and then I'm going to jump into the Windows control panel, and I'll go and go System and Security. And then I'll go System again, and then over on the left there we'll go and go Advanced System Settings. Okay. And that opens up this little window. So within this little window I'll go Environment Variables, and it's down here below that we want to create that environment variable. So I'm going to scroll down, I'll go and hit New, I'll go and paste in what I copied out of the release notes of the what's new guide there, and I'll go and set that to a value of 1, go and hit OK, and now we actually have that value in the environment variables for Windows. So I'll go and hit OK, OK again. I can close out of this window, and then I'm going to relaunch Composer here. So I'm going to fire it back up, and I'm going to go back into File, Properties, Default Document Properties. And you'll see now we have that render mode. So I'll go and change that to Silhouette, apply that, and I might also make a couple other changes. Maybe I don't want a gradient, maybe I just want a solid color there, apply that also. So now when I go and go File and Open, and I'm going to grab a SOLIDWORKS assembly, let it open that, and it's going to go through and do the converting of the document. And again, I could go File and save as within SOLIDWORKS. So now I have a white background with a silhouette from the get-go. You can also create a a registry key if you're going to deploy this out to a bunch of users, and you want to have everybody's machine with that option. It's going to be located in the Windows registry under HKey local machine, system, current control center, control, and then go down to session manager, and then environment, and there's that registry key. So I could create it and then do a export, and then strip off all the other variables that I don't want to change, and then only leave the one there for the DS 3D VC override render mode, and again value set to 1 there. So you could create a registry key if you wanted to do that. So a little bit more obscure, but definitely something that if you're going to be doing that all the time, might be worth the time to turn it on. Alright, so this next one is the improved password management. That one shows up when you do a file, save as, and then composer. And we can go down to the security here. When we decide to put a password in there, it actually gives us the confirmation box for the password, so that way we don't accidentally type in the wrong password and lock ourselves out viewing it in the player mode. I believe also if we go into save as package, which is the self-executable or the exe, yeah, it looks like they've done the same thing as well. Type in the password and then confirm it. That way you don't accidentally get the wrong password put in there. Alright, so this next one actually is polylines and labels. I'm just going to show the polyline part of it, but the improvement of the extremity arrows. So I'm going to actually go and grab a polyline, come off to the side here, and come to the edge where I want it to snap. Stop my polyline, and then for my extremities over here on the properties on the left hand side, I'll go and add an arrow. I'll go and make it a little bit smaller here. Biggest thing is that the arrow actually does start at the edge and then continue out, so it's less likely to actually pop into the wrong spot as far as the location goes. So pretty simple, but definitely helps improve conveyance of information there with your polylines and also your labels as well. Alright, so the ninth one in the What's New 2015 Composer PDF here is an update to Composer Sync. Composer Sync's a separate license, so you do have to purchase it separately. It's designed to automate some of the update processes and that type of stuff. So one of the things that they did this release is the ability of doing HTML and XML for the log file. And I think that's mostly just so that it can be automated and integrated into another system like an ERP or any logs saying whether it's successful or not successful. That stuff can be read in real easily. So not going to apply to most of you there. Alright, so this final one is actually pertaining to the Composer Player. It's the permanent storage of the user customization. And I believe this actually applies to a machine that has SOLIDWORKS Composer loaded on it or just the Composer Player. So I'm going to go and save my Composer document, jump over to the Composer Player shortcut here that I've got on my desktop. I'm going to open that up, and I'll go and open up my file here. So I'll go and open up that one that I was working on. There's a couple of common items that typically were of an issue. One is the replay. And then a lot of times you don't want your marker showing up there at the bottom. The replay comes real important, especially when we have an animation that's an interactive animation. So for example, I've got a play button here to go to the next marker here. So I'll go and click on that button. It'll go to the next marker, but you'll see that it actually will replay just that one section between the two markers, which isn't usually what we want. So I'm actually going to turn off the replay section, and then it'll actually play normally. In fact, if I play this from beginning, you'll see that it'll actually work the way I intended to. So it was kind of cantankerous for the end user to have to turn off that replay every single time. See there, it stopped and it waited for me to hit the button to continue on. So the other thing down here at the bottom is the fact that the markers are. So I'm going to right click and turn the markers off, and I'm just going to close Composer. I don't need to do anything, so I'm just going to go exit, and then I'll go and open it back up here again. So this could be another day or another week or something, different document, and I'll go and go open, grab my same document or different document. Once again, you'll see that the replay is off, and then my markers for my animation aren't there as well. Same functionality that we're always used to, so we still get the ability of rotating and selecting parts and hiding those and that type of stuff. So all that stuff's still available. It's just the permanent storage of the settings there. I'm going to jump into the registry here and show you the where they're stored at as well, just for your own sake. Alright, so we're in the registry here, so we're looking at HKey current user. So this is whoever's logged into the machine. That's user specific. Software. Default. I think the What's New PDF actually says that this is SOLIDWORKS Composer, but they still haven't changed that just yet. Down to players, and then GUI settings or GUI settings there. And kind of the specific ones like the loop play, that's one of them, player visibility, and then also player toolbar. So those, depending on which one we're looking at, their state is actually stored in here. I haven't tried this yet, but I would suspect that you could actually do a export and then import in. Again, keep in mind that it's a user specific. So if you do reset the entire user profile by renaming or deleting, that would also have to be reset up again next time you launch Composer Player. But again, most of the time you don't need to get into the registry there, but they are stored in the registry. Well, that's the end of this episode of our DDI CADcast What's New series on Composer 2015. Definitely check out our YouTube channel at youtube.com/ddicad.com and also our tech blog at ddicad.com/techcenter. Thanks and have a great afternoon.